All right. Greetings, everybody. Hope you're having a good time. Hey, Drit. Hey, Seth. Oh, lots of cool people around tonight. Who'd like me to look at their game from the April Classical Tournament? All right, Seth. Sure, I've got your game here already, I think. This one, right? Got it all ready. Julio. Nice. I'm afraid Julio's link is going to close all my other everything else in live. It's one of those live links. It's so unwieldy. Let's use this site now. I'll just find his game myself. No problem, no problem. Is it your game with Rooksaur? Right here? A draw from 2 days ago? Probably. Maybe it works. I don't know. Sometimes, you know, when you click on one of those links, it opens up a new version of live chess, and then you can't see. And then all your other boards get closed. It depends. Anyway, hey, Savage. All right, so... Anyway, so we've got this game. We've got Seth's game. I'm going to start with this game because I haven't seen it. And Seth's game, I looked at some already today. So we'll see. Okay, I've got Dasser's game with Jade already open here as well. Yeah. All right, but let's see a game I haven't seen yet. Okay. So, of course, I've seen this position many times. I don't know this move G4, so I'll have a look at that. H5, fighting for the F5 square for the knight. H3, holding it together. Oh, sorry about the streak, Super Llama. Round 4 with Alexa. Yeah, I've got that game open. And here's Super Llama's game. Okay. Cool. Yeah, stopping knight f5 Dasser seems to be the reason. Yeah, I don't know if you can punish it or not. I mean, h5, he played h3. I don't know if your punishment extends beyond this, but so far it doesn't seem to have hurt you or white, right? And then you play knight d5, and I don't know, everything looks okay so far. So, I mean, it doesn't look like h5 is bad for you, but it also doesn't look like it hurts white. So I'm going to see the game and then go back and see what else could be done. Okay, so when we get to this point, seems like if anything, you're slightly worse after the minor pieces got traded. Huh. So could you just keep repeating? If white plays rook c4, then you can play rook d5 and you're okay, or even h4. Okay, so seems like you've got enough to go back and forth there, maybe. King b7. No rook a5. Are you trying to win, draw, or lose? What's the plan? Okay, I guess you decided to draw. Well, I think the rook endgame was probably never outside of being drawn, but if anyone would have been better, it would have been white. So, but it seemed like you were trying to win it anyway. Oh wait, you're black. Right. Okay, it seems like, sorry. It seems like you tried to win this position, and then I don't know why he played, yeah, I can't tell who's trying to win. Okay. I think the rook endgame was always a draw. But I think that after you trade into this position, if anything, you're slightly worse. So it's weird that you wouldn't have just taken the draw when you could have had it. Well, I mean, not weird, but I mean, I would have probably taken a draw here with rook back and forth. Let's see if there was anything interesting to do before the minor pieces come off. So let's get deep into this move. So, I mean, the most obvious move would be to develop the rook, I guess. Let's look at that first, and you also mentioned it. It's a very good question, Douglas. I could not tell who was trying to win. That question was with me the whole time in this game. All right, but rook e8 is like the simplest question to ask first, right? If we just want to ask some random question, let's ask this one. With maybe some kind of mild pseudo threat of knight d5. I will say you don't have to keep the rook defending the pawn on h5. As far as your comment about your rook was just tied to this pawn, like, you can play rook e8. You don't have to sit there if you don't want to. You know, this is not in any way a scary move, nor an especially plausible move from white. So I mean, your rook was not tied to this h5 pawn. Not on this move. Not on this move where you could play rook e8 if you wanted to here. Not on this move. You could still play rook e8 if you really wanted to. Right, so that's one little point I want to make. You could have played rook e8 on any of those moves after h5 if you wanted to. Now, what you would gain by having played h5, h3, I'm not clear if you quickly play rook he8, right? Like, we could say that it doesn't help you to have the pawn on h5. That's why I'm going to look at rook e8 here. But you're definitely not tied to defending that h5 pawn. G takes h5 and g7 weak, but you're always doing enough on the e file that it doesn't really matter. And those h pawns are so weak that, again, it doesn't really matter. Do you want to see like an example to convince? Like here, white loses the d4 pawn. I guess rook g1 going after this would have been your question, but the knight's covering that for the moment. So check here, come back here, covering it again. Attacking this. Bishop here, maybe. Black can go rook d4. Black can come back rook h5 at some point, you know. So here, no problem for black. So we'll go again. We'll go h3, knight d5, knight e4. I'll play rook e8. Well, clearly here there's no g takes h5 because this is attacked. So maybe now knight g5 going after... This square might have been why you played bishop e7, maybe to stop this. So here, here, here. Sorry, we don't need to trade the bishop prior to doing this. Let's start with this. No, actually, I had a reason for it. Okay, we'll continue with this. This. And now, actually, yeah. Okay. Now maybe white could play king d3 and sack that pawn. Okay, so I have to do this. Now, I'm not afraid of knight f7 or pawn takes h5 because I've got this move. The only move that really bothers me is rook d1. Yeah, Wrath of Gods. That was why I had originally... That was part of why I had originally traded on e3 first. Was to have rook d4 if white played knight f7. So here's the only move I really expect from white at this point. Now, from black's perspective, black's up a pawn, right? I mean, they've got a doubled pawn, but, I mean, they can take if you want to at this point, you know, and go like here. Rook d3, maybe f6, maybe rook e7. In any case, you know, nothing wrong with this position for black. We could switch over to here, looking at the second rank, and rook h4. So g takes h5 never came up in this line at all, right? Black was just kind of nice. So rook e8, knight g5 seemed to leave black with an edge with trades and trades here. What else should white do here? Maybe king f3? Okay, and just as I say it, Julio says it too. So here maybe? I don't know if this works or not. I'm just trying something. Hey, look at that. I made use of your H-pawn, finally. I finally did something with the H-pawn. I mean, it may not be good or achieve anything that matters. Oh, here I have G6. Never mind. Knight here. Okay, the threat here is rook e8. Followed by knight f6, checkmate. King here, rook here, king here. Actually, it doesn't even work. Just no checkmate. I don't know. This doesn't look particularly special for either side. I see this f6 move, Wrath of God, but I mean, maybe it's reasonable, but it seems to mildly favor black. Maybe it's all about equal as well. Yeah, it's still equal. So f6 could be played here just fine. Yeah, it's just about equal. I tried to do something there. Okay, hang on. Let's play some other move. I mean, we have to try to do something. I don't think white's going to consider taking my pawn here, but maybe. No. Rook here attacking the knight. And if the knight moves, knight e3 looks good. Knight g5. I think black has just enough pieces on the board to gain a small advantage. Obviously, I can equalize for black at will in these positions, right? Like, I could go here and here if we're worried about this pawn, and here does send the white king to the first rank, which discoordinates them a little bit. But if I want to play for an edge, I think I have to try this. I have to put more pressure and try and use this bishop. Because right now, you guys can see this bishop. I mean, it's cutting off some squares, but it's not attacking the key structure, which happens to be on dark squares. So it should be able to do something. Oh, you were going to go to knight to d3. Oh, nice. I missed that point. If rook f1, you can take this. So white has to do more shenanigans like this. Yeah, the white rooks are definitely awful. That is a fair report on those pieces. The knight on g5 is almost trapped too, which could be, I mean, just something to keep our eyes on, that a move like this could randomly win the game as well. I think it doesn't quite against king c2. But something to keep our eyes on. But yeah, rook takes e3 and rook f1 almost work. I agree. But how does knight f2 work? this isn't. This does not appear to be what you were going for. Yeah, I mean it works tactically. You don't lose by doing it. Yeah, but it doesn't quite achieve anything. So maybe here. I mean, again, white's kind of holding on. Their pieces are worse, but I don't know that we have enough to win. I guess on rook e1, we could try bishop f4. King d3 is more likely then. I don't see our next step after this. That was much stronger than I realized, though, that knight d3 idea. Let's look at c5 for a moment, because that threatens to win a piece. And if white takes, then we've traded off our c pawn, and we're still creating pretty strong threats here. Taking on e3 might look like it only wins a pawn. Actually, rook f2, king f2, bishop e3 would win 2 pieces and a pawn against a rook. I mean, just a completely technically won position. So that might even be our biggest threat here as black over this. So, I mean, it's not desirable for white to trade on c5. Let's see what white's options are here. White could move the king. The move a3 looks pretty bad. So I would say like king d3 and rook a to d1 are probably the 2 main moves here for white that come to my mind. See this first for a second. Don't mind me, I'm just trying to threaten mate in 1 again. I don't know if it's mate, because last time I tried to threaten mate, it wasn't mate. But that's why I didn't put my rook opposite the king, was because I was trying to sneak a checkmate. This looks legitimately terrible for white right now, so I'm going to go back to trying rook d1. I mean, we could calculate it deeper. It's not like I checkmated white, but it looked probably bad. So let's try this move that gets a rook involved, stops this knight d3 move. So knight f4. Now the king could come here, and this is playable for black. But does it win? Oh, maybe it does. Hang on, hang on. I mean, winning would be a stretch here. Winning would be a stretch. White has, you know, just rook f1 or something, and the game's going. But it's interesting. We could investigate it. Knight e4. Yeah, I considered knight e4 here. I thought black would just play b4 and allow any number of forks, but recover the bishop at the end. It should be a draw. All right. We could pick up the h3 pawn instead of knight e6. I don't think it changes much. We could consider this position. Yeah, but it's going to be like a pure rook endgame where black also has 2 isolated pawns on the queen side and is not even up a pawn. So we could argue that white's extra a pawn is useless, but it's probably not anything like winning for black. Oh. Okay, here's an idea. Sorry. Let's take right here, actually. We'll do it simple. Rook takes. Knight takes. Pawn has to take because if rook takes, knight d5. Ah, rook over to e4? Are you kidding me? Just can't win. It takes so much to win. Yeah, except white defends the knight by moving the king off of the file. Steve, king f3 at the end of this thing. And now the knight's not in position to land any tactics. Yeah. I mean, it's all playable for black, you know, but it's not. Not anything special. Okay, hang on. So we could take this way first. Then here, here, here. There's still rook e4, sorry. It's a mouse slip. Still this move. Well, if there's something for black, I don't quite see it, but I mean, the whole position looks very, very risky for white, let's say. We haven't proven anything for black, but it's been nothing but scary. C4? But that's not cracking things open. I wanted to crack things open. Tell me more about C4, Douglas. Okay, I know which line you mean, Daster. I've got it. It's this one, this one, this one. You want to take here and then win the pawn on e3. But the problem is this is attacked. C4 to keep white's bishop bad, huh? Yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, c4 just to keep this piece bad. We're probably going to have to trade this piece anyway at some point to try and break through, Douglas. So I don't see like a play for us that just leaves this piece bad on the board forever. Yeah, CD4 Super Llama, but then I've tried that and it runs into this and the pieces are attacked. Maybe just C6. Maybe just calm as you like. Just defend your piece and then play. Then keep playing with the position a little bit open. But, I mean, white can go to e4 and start trading stuff off. It's not like black has any advantage, really. Okay, well, if there's an advantage for black, I can't quite find it. It's a nice looking move. I mean, it's like white who has to come up with good moves. But let's go back for a little bit and try without h5, okay? I mean, this is the most principled move here, probably, to try and take advantage of like the power of the rooks as soon as possible on the white king position. And let's just see what white could do here. King f3 is an option, and putting a rook on d1 is an option. Sort of maybe the major options. Let's try this. Knight d5. Rook c1. Looks equal to me. I don't see any real problem for white. So on c5 now, I think just trade the knight. And then, you know, maybe the second rook comes out. And I would assume we're at equality here. Actually, I mean, black's slightly worse now. Best case is equality, but we're left with split pawns and no advantage for black of any other kind. Yeah. Okay, here you could play f5. Because knight here would be good. But again, white's probably just going to play h3 in response, but then maybe you could trade. Okay, let's try this move. Let's just try something. Try to open space up near the king. And try and create a little pressure like this. If white plays h3, we'll take. And get this file, but does it matter? I mean, it doesn't matter. White doesn't care. Doesn't do anything. Doesn't do anything. Okay. Julio, I don't think rook e8 at king f3 does anything particularly important for you, right? So you want to try rook h e8 here, knight d5. That's right. You were asking about that. And then g6, trying to play this. The problem is I don't see any reason why white would be worse anymore, Julio. Like, white has time to bring all the rooks out, and the king's not on a file with your rooks. I don't see any potential in this move. We can try making some moves, but I don't. There's nothing wrong with this move. I just don't see any danger to white. Okay, well, maybe you'll be interested in the move I want to try, Julio. So you guys looked at this move in this position here, g6, and had trouble for white? Huh. Okay. We'll give it a shot then. Let me play some kind of move for white. If I'm not worried about white's position, then I should be able to make some random move pretty quickly. So let's try this. If rook takes, I'll take the pawn. You probably want to straighten out your pawns anyway. Then I'll play like here. Black will probably play rook d7. No, you're not excited about this? All right. Here's a suggestion, Julio. How about we try this for you? The very move g4 was trying to prevent is knight f5. And actually, if white ends up doing this, white will have played knight f5 for you. Like white will have literally lost a move by moving the g-pawn twice while you only moved your f-pawn once. So this we have to assume is like the best scenario for black. And like to such an extent that g takes f5 would mean that white had refuted their own g4 move, okay? So realistically, white's going to defend the pawn here, right? And I'm wondering if we've got two threats here. So let's say white plays h3, I think, the most likely move. And now you try this. Well, bishop's attacked. It's going to take. I'm going to take. I know I'm leaving your bad structure forever. This is just very committal, but we're trying to attack again. So white's going to anchor the king position. And then I'm going to change my mind. It's not going to be good enough. Yeah. Wrath of Gods, if we play rook e8 here, then for white, I just have this move. And this position we looked at before via rook e8, king f3, f5, h3, and I didn't find anything for black here. Well, the thing is, HP Bobdol, if you want to get through d4, you have to attack it with something other than a rook. Right? It seems. I'm sorry, meh, if I seem to be ignoring some of the things you're saying. It's because, unfortunately, I can't quite understand them. I'm reading them, I'm trying to understand them, and I just don't quite follow. So my apologies there. Yeah, so Bob Dole, it's very committal of time to spend 2 moves to put this rook on the d file instead of the e or the f files. And if even once we've doubled the rooks, we still need to come up with some way to poke this with a knight or bishop or pawn, then it's not going to be the most efficient way to do it, in my opinion. So f5, h3. I'm still on this move for now. Hang on. Hang on, folks. Let's try rook f8. Did you ever try a position that looked like this, Julio? One option for white would be rook d1 to protect the d4 pawn against this f4 threat. That's my main threat now, is like f4 to get this. I would argue that if white tries to stop f4 by taking, they have again refuted themselves because they played g4 to stop knight f5. We played a pawn move. They played h3 to not have to take on f5. We developed a rook, and now they're taking and bringing black's knight to f5. So I would again argue that white has refuted themselves if they play this line. So let's try rook f8 here and see if this move can bother white. Oh, f3 is a nice idea, Wrath of Gods. Exactly, HP Bundle. When I've tried everything else, we might as well try that too, yeah. Okay, so f3 and rook ad1 are our two candidate moves to start off with, right? King f3 just gets hurt by this. If bishop takes, knight g6, or g5, sorry. Bishop takes g5. And if bishop retreats, rook d4, right? So we got f3 and rook d1 as really candidate moves here, I think, folks. Let's try Wrath of God's move first. So we're going to go f4. Bishop f2. Rook e8. Try to get out. Okay, I'm going to do something a little bit weird here. No, hang on. Well, okay, I've got two different things I can do. So I want to go here, attacking this. Rook c1. I'm playing knight e3 anyway, so playing c4 does not help white's case. It leaves d4 hanging. So rook here, and now I was planning this. Although I was kind of counting on white taking, and I was going to play rook e3, but now I'm thinking maybe king g1 for white will defend. I was counting on this idea. I was going into the pure rook endgame like this. Although even here, this move looks like a draw. Okay, so what am I doing? Okay, we're going to have to try another move. Keep trying. c5. White's basically king g2 away from being equal here. c5, so now we've got rook d1 or taking it. It's probably going to be rook d1, but let's just check whether or not it's good for white to take this. Oh, I don't know for certain they're raised to GM. You're saying here you can trade everything and bring the black king to h4? The white king could just go back and forth between these two squares in general, I think. Is something burning, Chloe? Chloe? Apologies. Okay. Just playing rook a7. No, it's not like you're winning after g4. We're just looking at different ways to give white some trouble. At ATC, could I? Papa, you want to go to mom? Go. Go, 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 Papa. Yeah.
She's upstairs?
She's here.
Papa, you want to come back? Papa! Come on, come here. Come on, come on.
Okay, let's try c5. Let's try c5. There's no need to rush that bishop takes c3 move, actually. This is more pressure. This is more pressure on white. Yeah, rook d1 here I don't think is going to be that good. Yeah, this looks bad for white. You want to go king d3, Wrath of Gods? That's intense. We could try it. We could try it. dc5. Did I trade and then go rook d2? I could just play rook d2 here, right? This is the best thing we've gotten so far, in my opinion, this position. I mean, we've gotten like a rook to d2 kind of for free, and we've got a lot of space. You want to do knight g6 instead of knight d5 even. Yeah, white might have to play h4 there to stop this. And then I understand you can go knight e5, sort of maybe threatening knight g4, maybe knight d3. But I think knight d5, I think we were just cruising for black with this move, honestly. Definitely doing some good things here. I'm starting to feel this line. Okay, so someone's saying king d3. Let's have a look at king d3, huh? Let's have a look at king d3. Okay, well, of course I'm going to play c5 then, right? What else am I going to do? c5. All right. Show us, Wrath. Show us why the king would come out here in order to keep going. Nice. Like one of the few opening variations I've invented in the king's gambit. A king rushing to c4. Douglas suddenly likes white. Okay, great king on c4. Great king on c4, apparently. Everybody loves him. Okay, the bishop can't just drop back to f2 because we'll play rook d2 for black again. Yeah, you're not getting mated. I'm just trying to get my rooks active. That's all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to activate these rooks by opening up the center before these rooks are out. I'm not going to mate you right now. I'd like to, but I admit that at the moment I'm not threatening to at all. It's not losing, but it's probably worse than this, Wrath of God. Here is probably worse than what you just got. King b40. I don't know if you're going to retreat your king ever or not. If you don't, black does get rook d2. If you do, there's knight d5 and black gets rook e2. In fact, no matter what you do, I'm getting rook e2. This I think is bad for you. I don't know if you're losing for sure, but I would say, yeah, atrocious is probably fair. So I think this is your best bet. And the knight comes here hitting this, and you have to choose between taking a pawn and developing a rook. I don't think dropping back is an option when this hits with tempo. I mean, there's just no point to do this for white. So I think you're pretty much grabbing the pawn or developing a rook. Should we try developing the rook first on the principle of playing reasonable moves? Now, there's a problem here because black can just trade off these three pieces, basically, and then put this rook, the last piece, on e3 or e2 in the rook endgame against this rook. And white's still kind of in hell. I mean, I don't mean any offense, but it just seems like it's still pretty darn bad for white. I'm going to play king takes here. In theory, you could also play this, but it just means your f3 pawn is hanging. And it's easier to win knight endgames than rook endgames. So I'm going to do this for now. Yeah, it's probably not going to work out, Wrath of God. There are variations, but I mean, we should investigate. I mean, we should investigate the more plausible one, basically. Knight d4, king here. First, like black's got rook e3 here, followed by then taking, right? They could delay it. Or they could take first, and then on this move, now you have to calculate moves like knight e5, and you have to calculate rook e3 here. And you have to calculate knight g5 going after this. So when black's got like 6 different tactics they can try here, like, and you're trying to play catch up, like one of them is going to be an advantage for black in my experience, or maybe knight e1 instead of knight e5, so that I don't risk like knight e5 somehow getting pinned at some point. I come here, and I'm escorting this, and I've got these, and like something's going to go wrong, I would say. I don't know which, but it's like it's too many things that could go wrong. I've had positions that I tried to make work like that were hanging by a thread, and the opponent had 3 or 4 things, and one of them ended up being a problem each time. So I'm going to go with this, and I guess I'm going to go with this and this. And this and this and this. How bad is this? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I would guess that black has an advantage and white can draw. We're not going to analyze this position for a year, but we could use this for an endgame tournament sometime. Anyway, that was interesting. That felt like very plausible for both sides. I prefer not to check engine eval Super Llama, yeah. Occasionally I do it if I'm like in a rush to figure something out because of time constraints on stream or whatever. And like there are people who really want to know the answer, or I really want to know the answer, and I don't have time to figure it out on stream. But if I'm working on chess on my own at home, first of all, I would set it up on a board and then there'd be no engine. But even if I were working on some games in like ChessBase or out of like a database, so it was on my computer, I wouldn't check evaluations. Okay, so Fisher Seb asking, why is the white position bad? Which I guess means that, Seb, you also think white's position is a little bit bad or strugglesome or something, right? Yeah, I guess, I mean, this position here is like a known theoretical position that's supposed to be about equal. White's slightly worse bishop, kind of balanced out by black's doubled pawns. Black's like slightly faster development, not being like too huge. And here white played the move g4 to stop knight f5. And we're looking this is a move which neither Julio nor I knew. So we're just looking if there was any way black could try to take advantage of it. And we tried rook HE8 for a while and got nothing for black, I would say. And I think that finally we've hit on a move that's mildly annoying for white. At least like at a human-to-human level. Like if I'm playing against myself and I play f5, then me with white is like, So taking refutes white. We tried h3 mainly. Then here we finally came up with rook f8, which I really like a lot. I don't know how Julio feels. Yep, I got your game, Super Llama. I don't know how Julio feels, but this move looks a bit annoying to white. I would say mildly irritating. How silly is bishop g5? Well, bishop g5, black might be able to win this pawn, right? Yeah, that's a good choice, Daster. Coast is not doing the show right now. So I don't know in exactly which position you mean race to GM, but in general, I mean, this is the whole reason we're pushing this F pawn is to try and win this pawn. So if you move away, yeah, I'll grab it. We haven't looked at the move A3 yet, as suggested by Sidon. You find F3 heartbreaking, Fisher Sub? I mean, F3 is like positionally solid. Black's really like working hard to try to open one of these files before the white rooks come out. We've got this tiniest of development leads on white, and we're trying to break through this very, very solid construction and try and just bother white a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if necessarily there was like a problem with rook e8. It just didn't quite, we just couldn't quite break through. Just didn't quite win, so that was the problem with it, I guess. Or I mean, it didn't end up posing like hard enough problems. We were able to solve the problems. This move here, it's pretty cool. This threat's annoying. Have we tried rook d1 here? We didn't really want to try gf5, king f3, f3. Did we ever go try rook d1 here? I don't think we ever did. This was my other candidate move. Yeah, we haven't tried it. So we don't yet know if this does anything. And we've also got a3 to look at, suggested by Sidon. Yeah, that's right, race to GM. But I think, like, yeah, black would always prefer to take on d4 before looking at moves like f6 and other things. Okay, so what can we do against this? White's got the rooks coordinated. And we may need to play f3 to keep the rooks from coordinating. Get the king in their way, hopefully. But then this bishop will be able to come back out and lock the whole position up. Well, race to GM, h3. I mean, white is still just saying they're trying to stop knight f5. I mean, we are kind of guessing that g4 is not the #1 move in that position, race to GM. But we're trying to figure out, okay, you've got an equal position. Your opponent plays like a mildly subpar move in g4, right? Not an atrocious move, a mildly subpar move. What, how do you try and make life just a little bit hard for your opponent, right? It's not like you're going to win because of the move. You're just looking to ask them a few questions, right? In Jesse speak. And the trickier the questions, the better. So in this position here for black, we could go f3, we could go knight d5, we could go knight g6 would be a move that would keep king f3 from being too good. We could go g5, just gaining space and preparing to always have knight g6 to h4. Wrath of God wants to somehow play all those moves for black. Rook e8, g5, and knight g6 all at once, which would be good. And if we play g5 immediately, white can play h4. Absolutely. And then we may or may not get anything going there. Hard choice. Okay. Oh, and one other candidate move for black here would be c5. Sorry. One other candidate move here is c5, with the idea that if white takes, then you play f3 check. With a great position, I think. I mean, I haven't analyzed it deeply yet or anything, but here, of course, there's d5, there's a3, there's lots of stuff to look at, but the basic premise of the move is we're threatening the pawn, and if white takes, taking is nothing, right? Once white trades and develops this rook, it's a draw. At best. I mean, black's worse, actually, because this pawn's weak, and these pawns are split. But the whole point is to have the juice to play f3 here, keeping this rook from developing. Right now, king e3, bishop c5 is devastating. King can't try any of these moves. So f3 is much stronger now. King has to go here, I suppose. And black can even play knight d5 to keep a lot of tension in the position, right? Rook e8 coming and various tactics. This is like one of the first positions that looked critical for white. This might be like dead. So hang on. So I'm not going to take on c5. Should we try a3 or should we try d5? My instinct is d5, slowing down the opening of the position, but rook d e8 before. Well, if you just start with rook d e8, the king can head for c4. And now neither of your rooks is like firing at him. So now you really have to play for rook e2, I guess, to get anything here. Although white might have... I don't know if you were expecting the king to switch directions. This is the wrath maneuver here. I'm not against it. I mean, it's logical to go put the king on an active square far away from the rooks. The king can often hide on f3 giant solemn, yeah, but black's idea here with the quick rook e8 was specifically that you would come here and then he would go here looking at knight h4 mate. You can try, but this is risky because your king just went to where all the black pieces are. Right? So our preference is not to run towards the black pieces, but to run away from them. I think is a trick for white. In general, we were headed for f3, but now I think we're headed for c4. So let me try c5 again. Somebody's made a good suggestion that if white plays d5, I could now take, and say, yes, I'm up a pawn. I've got a lot of scenarios here where the knight could be better than the bishop with the space that black has. I'm threatening c3. I'm threatening f3 to keep this rook out of the game. So it's a lot of worries here for white right now. Howdy, Sridhar. Welcome to the stream. So what does that leave for white? a3 here. I'm feeling some confidence here for black, actually. With this move order. We can, Fisher. I think it's just, I think it's good to throw an f3 first. I'm probably going to do exactly that right here. King f1, headed for h2 faster since you have to do it anyway, sit on. Yeah, I hesitated about this move for white. Oh, the problem with this order is that takes, and this is undefended. So white can't recapture. That's why I didn't do this sit on. You can take with check, but you still can't recapture because this is back rank mate. So now to avoid... Well, you can't really avoid losing anymore. I was going to say to avoid losing, you might have to head back, but no, it's just too late. There's no avoiding it anymore. Hey, this looks pretty strong overall, folks. I mean, we could try to analyze it to death. But I mean, I would say at the very least, this looks very, very worrisome for white right here. So like here also my intention is to do this, I think. You know, and we can see there's some pain for white. We're threatening knight c3 and we're threatening rook e8 to e2 at the same time. I mean, if there are defenses for white, they're like the kind of moves that I struggle to find for sure. f3, king d3 at this point. Oh, just to keep the rooks connected. Yeah. That could make sense. That could make sense. But again, we could say that white's really struggling here. Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. I think this is much less likely to sort of fall apart and lose than those other lines. but it's also a big pain. Right, so if we switch to f3 way back when, that means that you guys are not liking these positions here for white. But also, once f3 happens, what move is black going to play? I mean, we could maybe defend that position eventually, Seb. I'm not saying like black was winning or anything. Just we were giving white some headaches. That's the most that, we could do. And I think Julio and everyone here hopefully understands. It's very important to know what we're trying to achieve or accomplish. We're not trying to just win the game for black because white played g4 in an equal position. Like, g4 doesn't look that bad. We're just seeing, like, are there ideas to, improve our position the most and give them a couple worries. So what are we going to do if white plays f3? Those of you who've been here for 10 minutes or an hour? Have we been looking at this game for an hour? For those of you who've been here for 10 to 70 minutes, do you guys have a sense what black's next move is if white plays f3? Yeah, it's fun, Daster. I'm learning something here, so. Exactly, metabolic error. Rook e8 looks pretty good now because this piece is undefended by the f2 pawn, right? And that's definitely worrisome for white. That move. Like, I'm not sure what my next move is for white, right? The king's going to have to run through the d file now. Just a3. Just a3. Okay. Wrath of God just wants me to show everybody a threat for black. I'll show everybody a threat for black. All right. So now we all know that this is a threat from black. We're going to need a great move for white. I'm just having fun with you, Wrath of God. You're suggesting a lot of good moves. And it's the same for me. I suggest some really dumb moves. I think 3 or 4 times today I didn't notice mate in 1 on stream. But I have to say this, actually, for all the people who tend to frequent this channel. You guys, like, basically never say things like, you shouldn't have the IM title. I mean, every day I hang like a mate in 1 and nobody says, like, what is this guy doing here? Why does he have his title? He shouldn't have it. Give it to me. Give me the channel. I'll do a better job. Actually, I've started like almost like taking it for granted that you guys are so nice, but I remember that that's not actually normal. Typically in my life, there've always been people out there who are like quick to be like, oh my God, face palm, this guy's a master, I don't believe it. That's what people normally say. So it's quite it's actually quite refreshing. I don't have to worry. I can just let all my mate in 1s hang out in front of you guys. So what's white going to do here? Candidate moves are rook here and like king king running in some dangerous direction, right? All right, so if we want to do the flaunting king run, let's try the flaunting king run first, huh? Desperate king d3 and pray. Why does bishop d2 not work? I don't know. Rook e1 f4. Risky, yeah. Rook e1 f4 is very risky. King d3, c5, king c4 is our line again. I mean, I believe the black might play c5 here. For sure, I believe that. And we're trying the king again. cd4, king b4, de3. Well, yeah, this pawn's not going to be survivable. I agree. That's not so good. So it's going to have to be bishop d4 here. Knight c6, rook d1. Is this any better for white than last time? Last time there was like a pawn on h3 and f4. That was the difference. So this is a little bit more survivable for white. And white didn't even necessarily lose that other line. They just had like some difficulties. All right, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. This is pretty good. Okay, so hang on. King c4. Yar. Oh, but see, here's the problem. This bishop's loose, right? So instead of trading and bringing it here, we need to try and grab a tempo. We need to try to grab that tempo. This move is going to shatter white, by the way, folks. You can spend some time calculating it if you want. I can try and prove it in some variations, but I just know. Once I see the move, you know, the instincts line up, and it's just that's the end. Yeah. Yeah, we can move on. White's been busted. Boom. If white plays like rook e1, black can probably sack the rook and play cd4 and then take one of these pieces. If white plays d5, black can go knight e5 check, sending the king somewhere random, then take on f3 or something, and the bishop's still hanging. So that's dead. That leaves us what? King f2. Somebody suggested this kind of nice move. Which looked just crushing. Yeah, I'll analyze it out for folks just to show that it is crushing. This move, hitting here, here, and here. Kosi would say, and that'll be a GG, right? We'll have a 5-week stream. I'm not alarmed because, you know, you're having fun, Wrath of Gods. I'm having fun. So, knight d5, you guys think is going to save white in the position where I said white can move on? Okay, we'll go back. We'll go back. We'll try this knight d5 move. Outrageous. Outrageous, this move. Don't worry, Julio. There's never enough time for all the other games. I just look at what I want to look at. All right. How do you like them apples? Those of you who wanted to see this knight d5 move analyzed some more. By the way, Ches Zebra, your move looks very, 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 very good as well. But I'm going to have some fun here. Dooby 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 doo. King here. Hang on. All right, I'll go back to my original intention. This move. Can we give up for white here? I'm having fun. I'm having fun. All right. So, knight c6, knight c6, that's a kill. That's just black has thrashed white horribly. You think white is safe? Okay. Show us, Seb. Knight d5 again. White is safe. White's king literally has 7 black pieces around it in a circle. Knight f5. Wow. Oh, I gotta go somewhere. If you save this, I'm gonna be angry. King a4. Do not run, I am your friend. Knight g3 or something. Bishop e1 or something. I know it's too complicated. I know it's too complicated. Too complicated for me too, Fisher Seb. But fun. But fun. Knight g3. Knight d4 here. Planning to come back there. I didn't see that square. Oh. Thank you, Wrath of Gods. That move gives me a chuckle. I suppose white has to play knight e4 to control this square. Or g5 to also overprotect that square. Yeah. Who knows? Who knows? Okay. It's a total mess, but I'll tell you that black is winning in my opinion. And we'll just go back to the suggestion of the zebra, which was at the beginning of this to play knight check. And then when the king moves, he can take this piece for free, leaving that one hanging. And still checkmate. I know, it's like, why do I have 3 pawns but no b pawns, right? So anyway, in any case, the instinct that knight c6 would end the game is correct. So, yeah. This was pretty thrilling, this analysis just now. I gotta say, for me. I'm just saying for me it was. I'm not saying how you're supposed to feel or whether you're supposed to like put a like on our channel. I'm just saying I'm finding this investigation thrilling. I understood nothing at first, and gradually I'm seeing some light. Oh, what actually happened, Aster, was a much less interesting affair than our analysis. So, Julio, you had one other question about something later on in this game? Something about getting trapped or whatever? Yeah, not to sound too weird, but I was really like, it was almost like I was thrilling myself, Seth. I was just playing moves in the position and then finding it interesting to learn something from it. All right, so there, you want to tell me like a move number, Julio, so I can try and find this correctly for you? It's in the single rook endgame, probably. All right, Wrath of Gods, you've been officially welcomed to the dojo by Xanth. He must enjoy your comments lately. Right here. Really? Wow. What a quinky. What a quinky. All right, and so what's the question about this position, Julio? Can white win by force somehow? I don't think so. You've got two weaknesses. You've got them covered. White doesn't have a pass pawn unless they do this, which they did to create the pass pawn, but that's what they did in the game. Otherwise, I don't know what white would be playing with to try and really prove anything here. It always seemed pretty equal. After rook b3, I imagine you would move your king. And it's not true that you can barely move. You're ready to trade that and then bring the second rook to d5, attacking c5, tie white to defending that pawn, right? Or rook takes, pawn takes, rook e6. And then rook e4 looks unavoidable and very strong. Even without trading the rook, you could play rook e6 here. So presumably white plays here to back up this rook and be able to recapture like this and attack c6, and you go here. And honestly, that's what I kept expecting to happen, Julio, was for the game to end at some point with a draw. And you guys just kept playing moves to keep the ball on the court or whatever. Okay, he was the one trying to win? Okay, I couldn't tell which of you really wanted to try and win. We've got a suggestion of playing rook c4, which keeps both rooks on the board, and maybe you could play b4, and then the suggestion is, well, black could also just leave that hanging. But I think an important point is black can also play this move. And I don't know that white will be happy about that. This is a bad line for black. That's why the rook's on c4. He thought white was mating you. Probably not. Anyway, said that's why I didn't play rook b7, was to have this pawn defended in the f4 line from the doubled rooks coming down. But that said, rook bc4, it's not yet a dead draw. Maybe just drop back with this rook. Let this rook be active on the weaknesses and keep the white king at bay. Drop back here. If the rook goes here, then you have rook e3 check. That should basically hold it together. d5? What's d5 for? Hey, Joel. To play rook d5, rook c6. I mean, I think white can almost always still give a draw, but this pawn, now black. Now black's more active than before. Yeah. I guess I would say, like, this position was really, really a draw. That's what I'll say, Julio, to answer your question. You were pretty safe during this phase here. I feel like I now know more about how to play the position after g4 by white than I know about almost anything else in chess. The subtlety and detail of some of the themes we've uncovered really rivals my knowledge of anything. No, Julio, it always seemed like a draw. We don't have a final analysis, Seb, but I would say after g4, f5, it felt a bit unpleasant to be white. And here, there's some kind of normal move after which it's just equal. Saw a segment of your game live today, Steve, but not during the postmortem. During the postmortem, I only look at games of people who are in the chat asking about their games. So you'll never like miss your game. Well, I guess if your opponent brought it, yeah. If your opponent brought the game, you could you could definitely have your game looked at. That's true. But I have seen nor hide nor hair of Gazalam tonight. All right. So got a million submissions. Took the stress off during the game. You played it great though, Steve. I mean, a fantastic game, right? And I think you came in right after the game and you said, like, I'd like to thank my coach, right? Oh, it was really great for me too, Julio. Thank you. All right, so let me try this one. Let me reload the water and then we'll keep going. All right. Great. Great. This is a Fianchetto King's Indian defense, I would say. There's a bunch of games people gave me Super Llama, and I don't really have like a specific order in mind. I don't have like a simple, I don't have like a list of who gave their game 5 seconds before who. So, let's see. So Douglas, I'm going to start playing through your game. If you've got any particular question about it, feel free to hit us up with your question, and we'll see. Super Llama, I'm going to give like anti-priority to people whose games I looked at during the live show today. So I don't think I looked at your game at all live. So your game would have priority over games that I looked at a little bit during the live show today. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I also find this to be an interesting setup for White Giant Solemn. I've played against it as black once and struggled in a classical game. We gotta stretch and look away every 1.5 hours or whatever it's been. So, all right. So Douglas goes for just trading and play on the e file, and this is very aggressive from Alexa to play b4 here. Wow. Normally Black would play rook e8 first, I think, and then maybe e4, knight c5, queen c2. I don't know theory on this for sure, but it's just it's a feeling I've got. Anyway, let me play through the whole game first and then come back and see. Now White's position looks bad. Queen g3 was threatened. The isolated pawn is going to take a lot of heat here. Oh, but the c7 pawn, that didn't work out. Trying to get the rook back to the e file. Gets the rook back to the e file, and then White just resigns. And view of rook e2 to f2, I guess. Okay, interesting game. This is definitely a key decision by White, which didn't seem to lead to anything good for White, although here there's also bishop takes g7 to look at. If White had just made this trade, then I would say Black's opening play has also been pretty well justified here, because they've traded off enough pieces for the cramp not to really matter. And I feel like these pawns are just a little bit loose, and Black's pieces have good enough squares. I'm not too worried about the doubled pawns. I don't really see a deficiency in Black's position or structure here. So my instinct is That if white just trades on c6, black's opening has been pretty successful, honestly. And this knight d5 move, honestly, I think it didn't give white a good position in the game. So the question is, I mean, to double check some of the analysis around that. So first of all, takes. Would black throw in the move knight e3 here? Certainly not king takes, pawn takes, losing a piece. You'd plan to play knight g7, and then white takes, and white's slightly better, right? I don't know, Steve. I would like to know that too. So anybody who knows if the stream has any problems, please let Steve and I know. Okay, so, well, actually, maybe I'd be too fast to evaluate by saying that white looks a bit better. There's like often like some mild static play against c7. But maybe black can get a good enough use out of the pieces they do have here. Knight b3 to answer rook e8 with knight d4 would be annoying. Maybe knight f5? Can prevent that. Yeah, I would be surprised if you're losing here, Douglas. That would be a big shock, right? Be a big shock if you were lost here. But let's just wonder, like, is there any concern? Is there even an edge for white? I'm really not very worried at all. Let's see here. If e4 comes, where's this heading? Okay, maybe I'll play this. It was a weird, like, stutter step. Yeah, black doesn't have a very active plan, Wrath of Gods, but right now black's task is actually kind of development. Like in the opening. Because look at these pieces. All three of them are on clearly bad squares, right? So before we come up with an active plan, we have to develop our pieces. There's not going to be an active plan when you don't have active pieces. So first we need to just come up with like an idea for where these pieces are headed. You know, rook e8 and queen a8 and queen f6 are sort of like some options, and then the knight is going to be a little bit tricky to get it into the game. A little bit of both, Wrath. Like, you could have a plan and then use the plan to decide where to put the pieces, or you could say, like, what are my actual options for the pieces, and then make your plan based on that, right? Like, my option for the rook is this. My option for the knight is, like, f5 and then where? And if we ask, like, a fianchettoed knight, it's very, very awkward. I mean, if white plays e4, the knight's almost trapped. So you might have some plan to put your knight on e5 or something, and then you figure out that there's no way to get to e5, right? So different people would probably approach that thought process from different directions. Some people might be like, my plan here is to like attack e2, so I'm going to play queen a8 to a6 or something like that, right? And other people might say like, okay, where can I move my pieces and then can I make a plan out of it? So, but I do come into this with like, some vague sense of the positional factors as well without having all the details. Like I understand that this pawn's a little bit weak and that this pawn's a little bit weak, and that, it would be nice to have the queen on the dark squares or on like the open file. I mean, then the details come out of that, right? Here I'm thinking maybe to go bishop a4 to circumvent this knight d4 move and try and play knight against really, really bad bishop. White can play e4 here to slow down my knight, and then we're looking at like knight e8 to f6 to d7 to e5, and even then white has f4. But actually, here's the nice part of this. With this move here, I can almost guarantee the moves queen f6 and rook a8. Wow. Okay, so I'm expecting something like queen d3 from white, just trying to play this, and I'm planning to take, and now here's my move. And I'm stopping rook a1, so I know I get the a file for the rook. Big question, though, how aggressive I can get. Can I leave c7 hanging? Yeah, Chess Zebra, that was part of my reason for trading bishop for knight, was there are scenarios where the knight can outperform the bishop. Although this knight is obviously on a terrible route, and working hard for this. Oh, knight c2 instead of knight b3 might be an improvement, yeah. I mean, I don't even know if this is justified, but now I guess my knight has to go here so that this won't back rank me and discoordinate my pieces. And now, I'm looking at knight to d4 here. Depending what white does, there are also positions where you could go knight g3 because of queen f1. You could also play h5, h4. I know another pawn's hanging. I'm feeling sort of all right about this. Hey, came to watch. Maybe king g2. Maybe king g2 and, e3 and crawling out. I'm not sure I can do this. I want to do this. I'm not sure I can. If I can't, then I put my pieces on the most active squares and then had to just back up to defend this. I suppose I could do this. Oh no, I couldn't because I played rook a8 before this would have trapped here. Okay. So I'm going to say that black's worse here. Rook c1 was good. And this would be even worse with maybe, potentially, if I tried the same idea here, right? Could be even worse because the queen's already here, as was suggested. I think you're a little bit worse here, Douglas. I do think you're a little bit worse. Of course, I don't think you should just like lose because of this position, but I think you're worse. I think there's eventual pressure on the C pawn, which there isn't on the E pawn because it can go to E3 or E4 at some point. I think White's bishop's a little bit bad, but not enough to be a problem. This is like normal that you're doing this to keep this pawn backward. And I think your knight is worse. And honestly, it's like a real problem that it's taking tons of moves to use this piece. So this looks awkward. Yeah, Wrath of Gods, the idea was that the bishop was going to hang out on c4 so that it could target both of these things and stay generally active. That's why I put it here. The bishop didn't have a lot of better options. That's one of the reasons I came up with this construction. Knight c6 isn't a problem. I don't think so. I mean, it depends on timing, but right now this is attacked. So on knight c6, queen f6, you can't go knight a5 because of this. Rook e1, knight f5. Now the black piece got out. If knight a5, knight d4. So, I don't know. You guys are all worried about the hole. Don't worry about the hole. I temporarily blocked the pressure on this file and got the black pieces reasonably active. So this is acceptable looking. But on the whole, I mean, I think black's certainly a bit worse here. Yeah, okay. So bishop g7. So I was wondering if your intention had been like something fancy. And apparently it wasn't, but we can look at the fancy move anyway, right? So this part of it is obvious. If white takes here, white's position is terrible. So I'm going to assume that queen d2, knight f1 is also kind of dumb. And focus my attentions on the moves queen d3 and queen c1. And I will cap this position off with this beautiful move, b5, and tell you that black is nearly winning in this particular line. Why didn't I go knight g7? I don't know, because I calculated this. And I thought this was good. We can look at knight g7 and see if it was even better than this. But this line here is pretty darn good. Oh, why didn't I take with my knight instead of my bishop? Knight would have been trapped on g2. The bishop ended up taking more pieces of white's, lots of pieces. I know that Douglas has seen that I'm winning a second pawn on c4 with my b5 move because this much bigger threat than pawn takes c4 is queen a8. So it's going to be like 2 pawns for black, and this knight is covering the weak dark squares, so there's no particular counterplay or concerns. So in this position here, knight g2 instead, it doesn't threaten anything, right? And it's trapped. So white can take the rook. You probably take it back. And then eventually we'll lose this piece because it's trapped. Not even that eventually. You know, b5 might win it immediately by sending this bishop back. And then once you lose this, it's going to be rook against bishop. So that's why I took with the bishop here. Now white could run away with the rook at this point, right? Like here maybe makes sense. And then I will take this piece. right? And white can take this piece, and I'm still up a pawn at the end for black. So far, and maybe you guys can point out some moves I'm missing, but so far the move queen against queen d3, bishop takes g2 seems to be holding up in all the lines, as leaving black with an extra pawn, actually, because basically because this thing's on a light square. If you're asking about fe3, Wrath of Gods, that was the first thing I said. I said we can just assume white's position's bad here. Material's equal, and white's pawn structure and king is just bad. And now when this queen comes to g5, there's weak squares. When the knight comes to h5 or f5, when the rook goes to e8, like not only does white have like a trashed pawn structure, but it's like this whole part of the pawn structure is set up perfectly for black to attack it. So this is like, I would rather be down a pawn than have this position. Probably this one's really bad. So let's see if queen c1's any different, or did I miss anything with queen d3? I'm going to try the same move here, because I mean in the end the queen's just doing this in a lot of lines. Options for white, we could leave with the bishop, leave with the rook. Again, any like rook move, black will just take this one and then go here. We're both avoiding pawn takes knight, creating a weakness, and we're winning a pawn. It's just fantastico. So I'm guessing, Douglas, that during the game you didn't really consider knight e3 much, right? It was just like it's a complicated taking of stuff position. And you may have thought, like, if you thought knight e3, maybe you just thought, oh, they moved their queen, and why am I doing it? I'm not confident in my calculation, honestly, Douglas, because, you know, when I do these shows, I'm not, like, in flow. I'm in sort of, like, you know, explain stuff mode. And this is a variation that I would work pretty hard on during a game. So I'm really not confident about knight e3, but so far, if we have to believe what we have seen, if we're to believe what we've seen so far, it looks like it works. I mean, it looks promising for black. You checked with the engine. Stockfish confirms. Stockfish confirms that knight e3 is good or something. I don't hate you. But, I mean, this is like something that Stockfish can point out to you faster than me, a move like this. But I could maybe tell you more about like the thought process of finding it and calculating it, rather than just like, oh, I missed some move. Will I miss it again next time? Who knows? Prepare your bags. Come inside, pick up your bags off the sidewalk. Don't you hear sincerity in my voice when I talk? Okay, so you had that. Maybe Alexa saw it. Maybe that's why Alexa did this. But I don't think this worked out for Alexa either. I mean, this position's just fine for black, I think. I mean, we can definitely look at this some more and figure out like how Alexa got into so much trouble, but there's no reason this position should be good for white. So that tells us that white's knight d5 probably wasn't very good, right? I think that's what it tells us. If bishop takes g7 fails to knight e3, and the position in the game was not good for white, in my opinion. Like, I think it may be slightly better for black. That's my first instinct, right? My first instinct is that this position is slightly better for black. So if all that is true, then knight d5 is not good for white. I already said I didn't like bishop c6, so Wrath of Gods asked, is e4 interesting in that case? I suppose that makes e4 the most interesting question left to ask in this position for white. Yeah, we'll get to bishop f3, which looks like a bad move. Fisher will talk about like how did it get worse and worse for white. But if you look at this position here and just like guess evaluate it, I'm guessing myself that you would also guess evaluate that if anybody's better, it's black, not white. Douglas probably already knows because Stockfish told him, but you and me just guessing, I think we would each guess that like close to equal, but you'd rather be black than white because this is like one fully isolated pawn. And this knight is like one step further or two steps further out of the center than this one. So it's just, it hasn't yet found any kind of a home. This knight's a bit better. And it's black's move, so black can try and generate a little initiative like Douglas did with knight d4. You can also be first to get your queen onto a diagonal or onto a file or something. So it's probably going to be a little bit better for black is the guess. So how about e4? Still keeping basically every piece on the board. I mean, black could still be cramped here. Could definitely still be cramped here with 4 minor pieces on the board. I mean, he got 1 rook off, but at the cost of opening a file. If he gets squished, that just means that white can use the file eventually. So e4, the idea would be to defend this bishop probably with your queen or something and then play knight d5. You don't mind being cramped. Okay. Okay, but Chess Zebra asks if this ends the whole idea from white. And that would be a problem. I mean, I really wanted to play queen c2 for white or something. So is this a problem? First instincts say this is going to be a problem. Yeah, it's a problem. 94 is quite good, Chess Zebra. Thank you for joining us and telling us about it. This is your first time on our stream or something? It says you just followed. But it also says that you're a subscriber. That's confusing. Yeah, this just refutes white to the tune of their center pawns. So oh, so this thing next to your head just means you have Prime Gaming, not that you have a Prime subscription. Got it. That makes more sense. I was like, how could you have just followed but already been a subscriber? Well, we're very happy to have you here in all cases. So, okay, so nothing particularly good for white here, Douglas. I think you owe a lot to this bishop being undefended. Can I say that? I mean, you say you don't mind being cramped, but I would say if this bishop weren't undefended, if white hadn't like had to bring a knight back to a1, I mean, I'm not the only person who considers black slightly worse in such a position if you don't have something good. So honestly, I have to go back and wonder about like, oh, the knight had to when this all happened, and he had to retreat like this. Yeah, I'm not down with b4. Basically, I'm gonna have to say this was a lot by white to go b4 and then start retreating all the way. Like then he makes a rush to a1 with the knight. I mean, if he takes on b4 with the knight, it's a busted structure, and black gets this outpost, which defends the only target white had. So black's very solid. White can put a knight on d5, but it's not an advantage, I don't think. So I'm going to go out on like a huge limb and say I'm not pumped about b4 here. I don't know the opening theory, and I'm sure this is still theory, so I don't know what exactly white should do. But certainly Douglas had a great response to b4. Without getting bogged down in that, I mean, we can say this whole opening seems to work out pretty nicely for black. And now let's look at this phase here, which is a little bit intricate for a few moves. Wrath of God says maybe white can just brave this queen here and the discoveries and just develop a piece logically. And if b4, like in the game, now it's something like this is way, 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 way better for white than what happened in the game, right? Bishop on a1 instead of knight on a1. And yeah, I mean, I don't see like any tactics for this knight that look like a problem for white. There's no threatening moves for this knight to make. It can't threaten anything. You could try something like this. But, you know, if white's worried about this or this, I mean, there's always even if bishop takes b7 is just bad here, there is always knight d5, and now the knight can't take because of mate. Oh, knight e8 sometimes defends in such positions. Keeps the position equal, actually. Here, if the knight just moves somewhere random, the point is it doesn't go anywhere good or do anything that hurts white, right? White just drops back with the queen. I have to defend the c4 pawn. This is like this extra thing. I don't like b4. It's very loose. Because like even on this move, just knight e5, and what am I doing about this stupid square, right? And if we drop back one square, it's even worse because knight e5 hits our queen and we can't stay on it. So I'm playing like this move now with the thought of maybe playing here and on bishop e6, you know, being able to block. Let's do something like this. But this is not where I want it to be as white, right? Everybody knows I didn't want this. So actually, like, I don't know, it's very stupid for black, but I mean for white, but if knight d7 and then knight b6 or e5, I'm not even sure what we're doing about this pawn. I've seen this theme once before in some variations of this opening. I looked at some GM games once and I saw this come up a couple times, black attacking the c pawn with the knight. Okay, that could help us a little bit. In this line, knight d5 with the point that here you have takes, here, check, here, winning a piece. So we could maybe defend that c4 pawn here with the move knight d5. But even there, this is certainly not an opening advantage for white either. Far from it. Far from it. White's worse, in my opinion. Well, your opening's holding up. We'll say that for now, Douglas. Your opening's holding up. Nobody's challenged your opening today. So let's see what happens here. Knight d4, bishop here, queen g5. Oops. So this piece here should have just gone to g2. And now what was the point, Douglas? Why had you blocked in your bishop like this? What did you have coming up? Were you planning to take on a1 and try and grab the pawn on e2? One idea is to win a pawn. Oh, God. I suppose so. The knight's going to be trapped on e2 initially, right? And I guess you'll play c5 immediately after taking the pawn, maybe? You weren't actually going to do it. I know the feeling. I'll play lines where it sort of like seems to threaten a pawn, and I'm just like hoping my opponent will be scared of me winning the pawn and do something else, but I'm like, there's no way I'm ever taking that pawn. I know what you mean. I've been there. Okay, so what were you going to do with your bishop on b2? So for anyone who doesn't think they could be 2200 or 2100, just check Douglas's answer. This is a classical game. Douglas played knight d4. What were you going to do about the bishop on b2? I don't think I'd planned the next move. You know, I was just blocking it in with my knight, and then we'll see what comes up. Love it. Very encouraging for everybody else. So he could take a1 if the bishop was trapped. Yes, but he doesn't want to take a1, right? So, I mean, bishop here to here, or queen f6. There are lots of options that don't that don't mean he's going to trade it for for this poor thing. Also, if he doesn't take it right away, then you know, next move the knight's going to move. I guess then he'll trade his knight and escape. Okay, maybe it's not too committal. Could just move the knight again here, no biggie. Yeah, knight f5 could be fine. Knight b5. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's stop worrying about the bishop and maybe pick the best square for the knight, right? Maybe that's what we're really looking for here. Yeah, rook e8, e3 will definitely move the knight somewhere maybe after that. Okay, well, I mean, it's clear white should have played bishop g2, and if black has an edge, it's still emerging. Still an emerging edge. Yeah, attacking this pawn looks good to me. I like that. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. Going straight for the weakness makes perfect sense. And if the queen came to defend it like this, we could nab a pawn. Wait, this looks very good. Ooh, or bishop c3. Indeed, planning is overrated. Okay, so we go after this pawn. There's not a lot of ways to defend it, so... Right, if this trade and knight b3 didn't win, black would still have this more beautiful move that Seb points out, taking this, and if here. So we've got knight c2, knight c2, queen c2, queen b4, rook b1. Black probably runs out of tricks in this position and loses a piece. So that makes knight c2 a pretty worthy move to consider here. Oh, rook b8. Good call. Yeah. Slowly unpin. Problem with slowly unpin is that after this move, white's fine. While you're slowly unpinning, white equalized material very quickly. And can maybe even play bishop d5 at some point. Well, I mean, the white bishop's as good as the black bishop here. The isolated pawns, no favor. White can play e3 to erect some kind of a structure. Black not as well. So I guess we sort of retreat and the game just goes on, huh? It's pretty close to equal. I'd prefer to be black, but basically pretty close to equal. So that would be a big difference, bishop g2 here. White played bishop d5, hit it, came here. I mean, basically seems like an unforced error, but perhaps he had in mind this move with a double attack. Maybe that would explain why the bishop f3 concession came in, which would suggest that Alexa missed something around the queen g5 move when he went for bishop d5. And that queen g5 is what he didn't see coming and didn't like. I mean, does white have anything good here? Probably not. There's just two pawns attacked, and black's bad tactical element has been escaping every time we've tried to do something with it, so I think it's fine here. Oh yeah, that's okay, Douglas. It's okay. It's fine, right? And then okay, so what causes him to go to f3? Maybe now he's afraid that you could take the pawn? Would you ever do this? Whether or not you would do it, maybe he was at least afraid by this point. Maybe he was at least afraid. To pretend. All right, let's try this. Queen b5, e3, takes here, pawns dropping, take here, takes here, takes here. White's in danger for sure. But what's the problem here? Because knight c2, queen c3, knight b4, queen c7. So let's wait and see what's wrong with this for black. Let's see if we can do it. Knight e2 and then queen b4. Okay. All right, so commits for the pawn. It's just going to be risky. Go here. Yeah, this is very, very safe for white. I mean, the queen c3 move you guys have suggested, just as one example, white can do this. Just pick up this pawn, like so. And as you can see, there's no risk from white's perspective. Actually, this move might even be dangerous for black because the knight's on such a weird square. If rook b8, rook b1 wins. If knight here, bishop here, c5, rook here, or rook d1, I don't know. But notice this. I guess white can't quite win. Can it? Bishop b7. Even here, I don't think white can win with the extra piece. But certainly white's not in danger. There's a lot of things white can do here. Bishop f1, simply winning back the pawn, and yeah. Okay. Yeah, I honestly think those positions are like mildly risky for black with the knight versus the bishop. So okay, we can't quite justify why he didn't go bishop g2 here, I don't think. But he played this, and now your position's great. And you attack the isolated pawn, and your bishop's got potential, and his structure's all weird. Here you're doing very well. Queen b3 here. La da da. This move here didn't help you, I don't think. You wanted the queen on c4 instead of b3? I guess it's in a good relation to the knight. Queen c4 doesn't... To me, I can't tell that queen c4 helps or hurts, so I guess it doesn't really matter from what I can see here. And now you go for rook e8. Oh. So that's what's up, huh? And if d5, there's rook d1 again because the queen's here instead of there. Wow. Well, that's some genius stuff, Douglas. That's some genius stuff. Attracting the queen to c4 to stop knight a3 and rook d1 in those lines. And then just bringing this out. Wow. Well, you made quick work of that position once you got knight takes f3, huh? That was pretty clean. Rook d1 drops f2. Oh, yeah, yeah, it does. b6, knight a3. Okay, so we could play d5. Knight b1. Yeah. No, I mean, I believe what you did here, Douglas. It looks very reasonable. All right, let's look at another game. Everything about that game went really well for you, Douglas. Don't really have any improvement suggestions. Your calculations all looked very nice. Your opening held up. Everything good. Everything good. Okay, one last game for me. Okay. As far as this phase of the game, if you play knight c4, this move wins. Or, I mean, I don't know, like wins, but like wins something, right? It hurts because the rook is overextended. Yeah, knight e3, rook a4. Not what he wants. You looked at f4 here. It does look like it loses a pawn, I agree. Hitting this. That's good looking at all your candidate moves that you looked at f4. That means you recognize that you were in sort of like a critical shape and had to look at everything at this point. See if we can guess what Super Llama was thinking about with this f4 move. I guess the idea, Samara, is if white gives up this pawn instead of this pawn, in this kind of position here, white still has this threat of knight takes b6 and still has, a chance of creating a pass pawn on the queen side, which will make life harder for black. Fisher Seb says it does give up this pawn here, but then after this, white's always going to have chances with these passed pawns because black's technically up a pawn, but it's partly going to matter which pawns are closer to queening now, and the black pawns haven't started. So anytime white's able to maintain this threat, it's annoying for black because they need to defend this side of the board. Bishop g1, rook a1. Isn't black winning? I don't know. Looks like a mess to me, Julian. You must be calculating quickly. So maybe the knight moves off of the bishop's attack. Knight d7 does perhaps threaten a perpetual check. It may also threaten b6, b7, b8, depending on how drawish we're feeling. So here you were planning this and then this, I guess. Even bishop takes b6 would be a draw. Yeah, but I mean, that would just show that white was in the game, right? If that's what black has to go for. Right? I mean, we're just seeing if, like, white's got chances. We understand that white's, like, in danger right here, right? Oso, right? Oso was aware that Oso was in danger at this point and chose knight c6, losing the a-pawn. The question is, how does that compare to knight c4? The reason that knight c4 wasn't played, which looks way better, not losing this pawn and threatening this pawn, and this majority is dangerous, is because of this move. And the rook can't lift up because of back rank mate. And the rook can't go sideways because of the knight. So in this position, Oso had bothered to calculate knight c4, f4. That shows that Oso correctly recognized how dangerous the position was and that it was time to calculate everything. And this doesn't look that easy for black, right? That's just what we're trying to figure out is we know white's not going to have the advantage, but white's just hoping to have not a loss at this point. Hey, Shadowcat. Oh, wait, we switched games. I'm going to switch positions and look away from the computer for 30 seconds. In this position here, Fisher said was saying bishop g5, rook b1, or in the position before. I'll go back to where he was saying it. Bishop g5, rook b1, rook takes knight a5. I would guess black could play bishop d8, and then on a6 play rook to a4. So that shouldn't work. Okay, so folks, that variation looked like this. this. And if takes, the pawn pushes. Although I don't think even that works. You can't come down because of the back rank mate. The other move was knight e3 here. Like this. This looks not so bad for white. This idea here, my instinct is white can deal with it. Get behind the thing that's advancing, right? Get behind the pawn. I can get really passive and maybe hold on to this pawn. Yeah, you can claim that Wrath of Gods. It's not... I mean, I would say it's like better than what happened in the game, right? From White's perspective, for Black to claim they think they've got a slightly better pawn structure, but Black doesn't have a single pawn left on the queen side is a good situation for White. So the other suggestion here was to knight f1, bishop f6, rook here, with the idea of just anchoring that bishop there and then fighting like this. Yeah. So here, and fight this. Hey, John Michael. I mean, the main thing I've done in the last 8 years was have 2 kids. That's been my biggest labor. I also taught in schools for a couple years, not chess, but English and French and math and social studies and stuff like that. Oh yeah, there's definitely chances for Black to press here. That b pawn's in danger. The bishop on d4 is good. f2 is really weak. This looks really, really scary for White at the moment, to me. There's probably some chances. But yeah, I like this idea of just like getting this piece active. That much seems really nice. Oh, maybe I can... No, that doesn't help me either. No chess zebra. This dojo project's been around for about 14 months. Seb, yeah, we could give up that pawn and just try and defend this side of the board. I'd say we've got a 50% chance of getting a draw. Maybe 60% chance of getting a draw. I agree with Julian. More than 20%, yeah. I think white's barely a favorite to draw. Yeah, thanks. The family is very nice, and chess community, of course, is still fun as well. Okay, so this was a tough choice. Also, but my instinct is that tricky as the lines are with knight c4, it was probably going to be better than knight c6. Okay, because the knight c6 line, your opponent's got two sides of the board to work with the bishop against your knight, right? And the knight c4 lines, in a lot of these lines, you're able to at least eliminate black last pawn on the queen side. And it feels much more within the realm of something defensible. My kids are not good at chess, no. They hardly play. I mean, they know the rules. They've seen chess around. But yeah, but they're certainly not good at it. Okay, but going back, we've got some other questions. Was there a moment where you should have taken time out to defend your back rank? And was c4 a big mistake? My instinct is that c4 was not a big mistake, because what I was most worried about, Super Llama, from your perspective, was actually this move, which your opponent didn't play. But I'll explain to you what I was most worried about for you is these pawns that are on the same side of the board essentially becoming isolated pawns. That's what I was most afraid of from your perspective, right? That basically, you're going to get like a trade, but if all these pawns are isolated, what it means is each of them needs to be defended by pieces, and they also, they can't really move. Isolated, technically they're still all on neighboring files, but effectively isolated, since they don't help each other move and they don't defend each other, etc., right? Every one of them sort of needing pieces to babysit them, right? Like Llama, if in theory this pawn were on A2 and this one were on B6 and this one were on C2 and this one were on D6, technically they're on 4 adjoining files, but you can see that essentially they're so far away from the others, they're not helping each other in any way. So that's my fear, is that this move here would come down, blockade this pawn, and give you, in my opinion, the equivalent of 3 isolated pawns here. In the game, when your opponent played this, you took your chance to immediately play c4. And to me, although it seems to lose this pawn and isolate this pawn, this felt like a reasonably good chance for white, given the position that you were in. So, yeah. So that's what I was worried about. But okay, your opponent didn't play queen c3, so maybe you have a little bit of time. Maybe you could play c4, maybe you could do something else. What do you think your opponent's planning with this move? Queen b4, hitting a4, and then maybe rook c3, or maybe he's just hoping to win this pawn? Maybe planning queen a3, but you didn't know why they were planning it. Okay, so presumably, I mean, they put their queen on this diagonal. They're probably coming in somewhere in this direction. Maybe c3, a suggestion from Fisher Sev, like Seb holding tight for a moment. If the queen comes in here attacking this, what does Seb want to do? Maybe rook a1, but then there's queen takes c3. Zebra wants to defend with queen e2 with this like knight f7 threat, but I don't believe it. So g4 here. g4. Seems highly unrealistic. Queen on a4 won't be a poor queen. She'll have a pawn in her pocket. She'll be rich. I'm not playing this because I fear you playing g5, Julian, just to be clear. g5, if I could move for you, I would play g5 for you because it's so bad, I think. But I'm doing this because I want to play knight e4 myself next move. I just want to hurry up and win the game. F3 was annoying. I wanted to bring my queen back into the game. Knight f7 here. Oh, queen g6 perhaps. Queen g6 perhaps. If the king comes here, then this. If the king comes here, you can take this and then do the whole thing over again. Yeah, this all works. Wow. Yeah, knight f7 definitely works. Okay. Knight takes g4 here, Fischer? Wow. Looks good. Looks. Guess one crazy move deserves another. I don't like this move, by the way, Oso. Like, you're not really looking to trade, so why get yourself into this little area? Right? It seems like maybe here keeps the opponent from putting pieces on this square. I suppose knight e4 could be a danger here. Bishop takes h6. Everybody's gone crazy now. What happens? Pawn takes. Are you bringing another piece? Nope. These two are enough. The queen's defended, otherwise this would be pretty cool. You wanted this trick? I mean, you guys are playing some intense moves here. It feels like this isn't good. Oh, so this bishop committed over here that doesn't really want to trade and otherwise isn't doing anything. You could go here. You could also just come here. F4. But what I don't like about that is this move here, of course. I still don't like. But, I mean, maybe, who knows? Maybe with your bishop not on h4 but on f4, you can trade, go here. Yeah, Fischer said black has to give back that h6 pawn, and it's still complicated. So a piece is a piece, but white has two pawns, and black has a weird position to play with a weak pawn on f7, so it's probably only a small disadvantage for white to go for that sack. It's probably not terrible. But look at this. We hit the a5 pawn, and white's, you know, close to okay. Oh, bishop d2 without the queen trade, maybe? Oh, yeah, that's a clear improvement. Thanks, Julian. I mean, this position, like, this was the first thing I thought of, and I just wanted to say this is not that bad for white, right? And especially if you compare it with the bishop on h4, these positions are, like, horrible. But with the bishop on d2, who knows? But as you point out, very important, this move is even much better. Bishop d2 takes, and then takes here, taking away these squares from the opponent's pieces. And with this threat, and if b6, then white gets the c6 square. So this position, who knows? White might even be better, right? Is that what you were thinking? That white would now have the advantage? White positionally better, you said. Yeah. And I don't think you mean better than in those other positions. I think you mean like white might have the advantage, period. Probably when you traded on d5, Super Llama. I don't know how big an advantage you ever had, but I think by the time you traded on d5, you didn't have an advantage. Yeah. Yeah, this threat on a5 is very unpleasant, and the c6 square is horrible. So the bishop definitely went the wrong direction here, I think, Super Llama. I mean, Julian's got a lot more experience playing this pawn structure than I have, and he also wants the bishop going in this direction. I don't know for sure if you should play bishop f4 or bishop d2, but I think you're fine-ish if you play one of those moves. Like, not in such trouble. So let's go back a little bit to this opening. Tell us when you think you had the advantage. Like here or later? No, I mean the piece. Sorry, later. I mean at move 14, right here, this trade. Like at this point, if you had an opening advantage, I think it's more or less gone. Black's pretty solid. Pawn structure's pretty clean. Bishop's pretty good. C-file can be used. I think black's okay. I mean, Julian plays this more than like 10 million times more than me, so he can chime in if I'm wrong. He likes a lot of these positions for white. Right. So I guess an important thing about this position is Julian wouldn't be making like these pawn moves that he made if he could avoid them. I'm also not a huge fan of them because they tend to weaken the C file. Seb suggests king h1, rook g1, and pushing your g pawn. It's an interesting plan, but I don't know if it's necessary. One thing is, you're worried about queen b2, but I think it's not yet a threat because you have rook b1. And rook b7 probably. Bishop c1 and then push the h pawn forward. Yeah, so ideas are you could push the g pawn, you could push the h pawn, you could lift a rook. It looks like the queen gets out at a3 at the moment, but sometimes it does. So Julian's saying just play bishop c1 because the queen has a way out. Yeah. Another idea here would be c4. This is probably not the style that it's probably not like the first choice of someone playing this position as white. But if you're in agreement that your position's not amazing, you could try this move. There are like two pieces to the idea here, Super Llama. One is if black takes, you play c5. So you block out this, you gain a big space advantage here. You're down a pawn, but like rook b1 seems to be coming really fast. The queen seems sort of trapped. Hard to imagine that white's not going to come out really good here in a move. So I wouldn't want to take on b2 for black. And if pawn takes, then you play like this. and you know, just play in the center here. Yeah, I think black's losing after queen b2. But I mean, this position here, dc4, knight c4, is just a position. You know, I slightly prefer playing black in these positions because of this, but it's got some room for white to play as well. So you could be looking at c4 already here, but I think most interesting is going to be just bring the bishop back, like Julian says, and then look for a kingside attack. Bishop g5 is what he played in the game, Chess Zebra, and yeah, it did not go well at all. Black just prevented your knight d7 idea, and then the bishop wasn't good on g5. But I would say this, Super Llama, I don't think you've got much of an advantage. I think you overestimated your position. Because like I noticed in the opening, what has black done wrong? Maybe with the center counter playing like queen d5, queen d8. But you play like bishop e2 and then bishop d3. And this looks reasonably solid to me. I would be surprised if you've got much of an advantage in this position. Even before this knight trade, which I don't like. I mean, if you see the knight trade coming and you want to keep an edge, you would want to avoid trading for it and move this knight and prepare c4. Right? So you could play something like bishop e5, knight d5, knight here or something. Yeah, like Julian, I don't want to spend a move on this. And then try to play like c4. And this is, yeah, like a normal Caro-Kann position. Black's really solid. You can get a small edge with c4 maybe. But backing up to this position here, to play bishop e2 and then bishop d3 is not going to generate like a big advantage for white. So if you play like this, you have to go after the opponent's bishop pair with knight h4, I think, if you want an advantage like with bishop e2. Oh, look at that. Julian saying the exact same thing again. You knew bishop e2 was in the master database, but didn't realize why. Yeah, it's really, really useless to know a move, but not know the why. You can't like make any use of it. So any move you don't know the reason for, you can throw it out. I mean, I would say this, Super Llama, you correctly guessed the opening, prepared for it, and didn't play the opening well. So however you studied the opening, I would say is a method you should sort of throw out. If I can just be so clear. After knight h4, bishop g6. Yeah, I have to take. I mean, that's the whole point of what I've done, and black can play knight d5 otherwise, you know, and just trade all these pieces. So the point is to take. And then, I don't know, from here, play like rook e1 or something. In this position here too, Super Llama, I mean, you know some opening theory maybe, but me looking at this position, I would wonder about the move c4 instead of knight c3 blocking the c-pawn. Because I know that generally for white to gain an upper hand in these positions, they need the c-pawn in the center as well. So here, is there some kind of a refutation? I don't see anything that should be bad for white here. The point is just to play this position. like what you did, right? But with this pawn here instead of here, it means these two pawns are stronger because they're keeping pesky pieces completely away. And if either of them needs to move, their buddy will defend them. So, well, he didn't want bishop d3. He just thought the bishops should go to e2 and then couldn't figure out what white was supposed to do. Right? Like, he played bishop e2, then he castled, brought out his bishop, and then put his rook on the semi-open file and was like, I'm really out of ideas for white. Like, black's position looks fine. Right? Yeah, we can read you, Alexander. Greetings and welcome. Right. So I think Llama got to this point, just sort of ran out of ideas, didn't realize the idea was knight h4, thought this piece was well placed, and then, you know, just went and traded it. Obviously, it doesn't make sense to play bishop e2 and bishop d3. But he'd played a move that he didn't know the idea behind, and then he couldn't, you know, figure out any good idea for it, right? As far as the question of, like, the H file in some position like this one here, yeah, the H file is not an issue. I mean, first of all, black's likely to just castle kingside. But second of all, your bishop's covering this. And third of all, you can play h3 if you want to. So it's not particularly an issue here, no. I was more thinking black's still going to play knight d5 and try and like trade one of my pieces. And if I go here, then maybe black's going to do this. So I was just kind of thinking here, like, what move would I play as white? Is there a move that sort of like minimizes black's ability to trade one more piece of mine? And I think the answer is there isn't really. So we'll have to allow some kind of a trade as white. Black won't be busted, but by any means. I mean, they've got the pawn structure at the moment to restrain the unopposed bishop. And they're low on weaknesses. So, yeah, probably h3, says Julian. I sort of agree. And then on this move, if you just take it, I feel like it slightly improves black's pawn structure to give them the c file. I suppose you could just play bishop d2. And maybe you could even take doubled pawns. Maybe you could say, who cares, as white. The danger is black trading off one of your two bishops, so you don't have the bishop pair. And then with this structure, sometimes the knight and sometimes black can outmaneuver the doubled pawn structure and end up with a good knight. Is knight d5 cd good, Julian? Okay, tell us why. If they castle on the king side, you get to play h4, h5. So g3 and then h4, h5, I guess. And if castle's queen side, then you can also... Actually, another point about this, Julian, is maybe white can immediately play c4 here. Because if black traded, I mean, they just lose control of d5, and you sort of bust out this bishop. Which is like the dream, is to bust out the unopposed bishop. Although if black doesn't take, I'm not sure how hot it is to push c5 here with the current pieces, because that doesn't help this piece. But maybe we could just trade. Yeah, he definitely means long-term after black's castled. You don't play g3 or h4 unless black's castled kingside, Seb. I'm pretty sure. Because like g3, rook takes h3 is a problem too at the moment. But once black's castled... Let's say we play rook e1 here, because we're not playing c4. Once black castles, you can play g3, knight c6, h4. Black's not going to sack a piece. There's no other piece on the king side, right? Well, c4, it's not, if here it's not going to be an IQP. White trades off the IQP immediately, so it will be a considerable advantage for white. Black should definitely not take on c4, I would say. But since Black doesn't have to take on c4, it's probably better to play slow, like Julian's saying. Just be content with what we have. You know, rook e1, knight c6, c3, castles, maybe g3 here, although you don't even need to rush that. Maybe, Julian, when white plays g3, you should consider g5 to stop that move. Oh, except then you open up the plan of bishop d3, queen. Yeah. There's not always one answer to everything. Is the Chess Dojo group on Discord for money only? No, definitely not for money only. There's the link. Okay, so that gives you two new ideas for this opening, Super Llama, and you can see why bishop e2, d3 isn't like very incisive, obviously. The idea of bishop e2 is to at some point play knight h4 and trade the knight for bishop to get the bishop pair. And the other idea I supply you with is to play c4, so you've got a stronger position in the center, and you know your opponent can't use the d5 square for one of the knights, so maybe their pieces will be a little bit more limited by your pawn center here as a potential way to play for an advantage. Can they avoid the knight for bishop trade? They could play like an early h6 probably. As soon as they play e6 though, I mean, you could already play knight h4 here possibly, right? I'm not sure it could get away. So then we're talking, you know, can your opponent play h6 this early in the game? Perhaps. Perhaps. It's a tempo. They're black. Maybe they can get away with it. They've played queen d5 to queen d8. White needs 3 moves to connect rooks. Black needs 5. And it's white's move, so white has a 2.5 tempo lead in development here. So, I like what Chess Zebra is saying. Maybe d5 here. Could be nice. Yeah. It's not really supposed to live there, right? Like in the lines we played knight h4, we just took the bishop immediately, the very next move. I didn't leave it on the side for too long. d5 could be played here. Another thing you could play as white would be bishop f4 like in the game, but with this move here. And then knight a6, c4. So again, I'm trying to set this up. The idea behind d5 is to play knight d4 as a follow-up and make it hard for black to play these moves. And if c6, knight d4. So if black takes this pawn, you take this. I would guess that the most testing move from black is c6, and that's why Julian said d5 seems strong if it works, right? So black could challenge us on this square, and we would have to find out if this is working for white or not. I noticed this important thing, Super Llama. Fisher Seb saying, I think developing the bishop to e2 that early is wrong. So you've seen some games in a master database. Fisher Seb hasn't seen them, but Fisher Seb has their own opinions and ideas and thoughts, right, about the position. And, you know, might be right. But fighting with those ideas, right? Fighting with those ideas, having a reason why the bishop to e2 might be right or might be wrong is very, very important. Right? It's very, very important to to have those ideas so that when the game goes well or badly, you can use that to then revise your ideas. If you play a move because somebody else played it, then if you didn't have the postmortem and a whole group of people chatting with you about the game, you wouldn't really know what went wrong with bishop e2, right? Like I'm guessing like an hour ago, you didn't know what was wrong with your opening, right? You thought you got an advantage, and why did you not then have an advantage later, right? Or why did you hit move 10 and then not know what to do anymore and play bishop e2 to d3? What were you missing? So super useful to think of that as like an approach from here. Me personally, I like playing pawn to c4, you know. Some people like putting the bishop on c4, right? So like what Seb is saying, you go like here, 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 here. I don't know where the bishop goes. Seb could tell us, but I can tell you that Seb's looking to castle queenside. Check it out. His text is coming in just now. I like to play bishop c4, queen e2, bishop f4, castles queenside, knight e5. Right? I didn't know what square he was going to put this on, but as soon as he said he liked bishop c4, right, I could guess the plan he's going for. He's using a space advantage to go for queenside castling, making the game sharper and giving him more chances to launch attacks with the g-pawn. So pretty cool. We got a bunch of new ideas for this and sort of understand what's going on in the opening phase, as well as like a couple positional details even once you got a position that's not necessarily amazing for you, right? We've got the idea that the bishop to h4 was kind of sidelined and it should be on f4 or d2 when you're defending. And also that at that key moment where you looked at knight c4 and knight c6, knight c4 still offered better hopes of salvation, even though like we know that black's better at that point and that you're defending. Like that's a given, we're aware, but knight c4 was a much more difficult defense. Yeah. Yeah. All right, everybody. So that's my show for today, more or less. I'm going to start wrapping it up, copy this game to my list of games. Thank you, everybody who shared their games with us today. Thank you, everybody who participated in the April Classical tournament. It was a lot of fun, and it'll be wrapping up in the next day or so. For those of you who are in the Classical tournament, expect final standings to be available somewhere around Monday morning, around the same time as we'll have pairings for the May-June tournament. So anybody who enjoys playing classical chess or just wants to test it out, let me hit you guys one more time with this link. And you can find the rules and information about this event in the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet is a one-stop spot for all the info about the tournament. It's where you can register by just typing in your information. There's no entry fee. There's no process to register other than just putting your information in there and saying that you want to play. And then, Sunday night, tomorrow night, we will split the tournament into sections based on how many players there are. So that's why if you look at the April one, you'll see that there are 5 different rating sections: under 1130, 1130 to 1401, 1410 to 1650, 1650 to 1850, and 1850 plus, right? So we're waiting till tomorrow. Right now there aren't extra tabs in the May-June one, but tomorrow night we'll split it into some number of sections, probably about 5 sections again. Then you'll see what your sections are and you'll get first round pairings. So tomorrow night, late around midnight, we'll have the pairings ready for the first round of the May-June tournament, and then you'll have until the next Sunday at 9 p.m. to play that game and post the results. Oh, anybody in the April tournament who hasn't posted their results, the tournament directors would love you to still post results. Obviously, they don't have to pair around 5 for the April tournament, but if you post results we can clean up the cross table and have everybody be able to see their score and, you know, tally up where they landed in the tournament for those who are interested in doing that. So, so yeah, put in your results if you are in the April tournament, and if you're in the May-June tournament, I encourage you to try it out. It's going to be fun. Any number of buys are available, so you can play as many or as few of the games as you want. So it's an easy way to taste classical chess for anybody who's sort of newish to it, and you will enjoy the taste. Thanks, Fisher Seb. Thanks, Fancy Ian. Alexander Grothendieck. You can't really be new to chess if you're rated over 2,000. That's pretty much impossible. The ratings we're talking about are chess.com rapid ratings. Well, I would never have guessed, Wrath of Gods, that you enjoyed it. You were so inactive in chat. So yeah, so chess.com rapid ratings, that's what we that's where we play the games, and they don't have a classical rating system, so that's what we've got. If you guys have any questions about these tournaments, you can always ask. You have until tomorrow at 9 p.m. to register if you want to play round 1 of the May-June tournament. And after that, you can always late join with buys into some other section. All right, let us raid Please raid someone as good as me. I'm afraid that's impossible, Alexander. I don't see anything too tantalizing. Yeah, I'm in California. It's 12:35 a.m. Hawaii would be my only good option. Exactly. Ooh, you're in Hawaii. Good for you. All right, guys. Tomorrow, Coasty will be streaming. He'll be doing a vote chess match tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And yeah, we'll have Dojo Scrubs and some other shows tomorrow. So congratulations to Chess Zebra on being in Hawaii. I will be visiting in July and August, Chess Zebra, so I'm very much looking forward to that. And good night, everybody. Be well. See you again soon.
King c6, queen b6, queen b6.